Am I good sound-wise? Okay. I just want to thank our guests from coming here today. We have Mayor Patrick Collins. We have Chief Middlestat from Laramie County Fire District 1. Whoop. And where's Clarence Stivar, our representative from the House? He's having a conversation. So just a reminder, we are going to do a kind of an open forum where you guys have questions. These guys are here to answer them and maybe give some information back to you as well. So just be respectful of the time. Please try and keep your questions short so we can get to everybody's. And make sure that you're speaking up loudly, especially if you are behind the microphone. This is being video recorded. The only microphone that we have is right here, and I'm loud by nature, so I think we're covered there. Housekeeping wise, we have these car magnets, truck magnets, Laramie County Residents Against City Annexation. These are available for purchase. These are $15 if you want to stick it on the back of your pickup. I've got a little sedan. Doesn't quite fit the same way, but I have it riding in my back window so people can see it from the outside. So that's just basically at cost, just to help us get the word out as we drive around and help more people become aware so that they can be informed and educated and be able to make the best decision for their families. So before we kick it off, we're going to do an opening prayer and Pledge of Allegiance. Take it away.
Dear Heavenly Father, we praise you and thank you that we can come together and discuss our future. And Father God, we invite a spirit of peace, joy, love, and happiness here, that we can just review the facts and shed light on everything that we need to know for this upcoming season of this community. Thank you, Father God. We love you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. So, Lord, hallelujah. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
How you doing? I'm Clarence Stivar. I'm House District 12 State Representative. I'm the one that's running House Bill 73, annexation voting requirement. This is the engrossed copy of the bill. It's not been read into the Senate. Crossover was, they started reading House bills into the Senate. Senate bills into the House yesterday. So we'll start hearing the Senate, House will start hearing Senate bills. I do not know when this one's going to be read in. As soon as I do, I'll get the word out, because I'm going to want you guys there to speak on behalf of the bill if you like it. This is Patrick Collins, the mayor of Cheyenne, and he's going to answer questions for you on the annexation part of Cheyenne. This is Chief Middlestat, Fire District 1's fire chief. So, who wants to start with questions? Right there,
Mr.
sir.
Mayor, perhaps you could take just a minute to give us a background of what the city has already done, what they've discussed already, what they've planned on already, and what they're hoping to see in the future.
So I don't know if you guys heard the question. The question was, what has the city done, and what do we have, I think, plans for the future, right?
Yeah.
And maybe just give you a little bit of background. I was elected to the city council in 2000. And I spent 12 years in the city council, and I've been mayor now for 2 years. And I think maybe there's a little bit of maybe a misconception about how annexation works. I wasn't able to be at the House Bill 73 hearing. I was doing the Martin Luther King March that morning, and so I was not able to be there. But I heard a lot of people talking about cities annexing property. And just so you know, there's 3 ways that an annexation can happen. And since I got elected in 2000, I think that the Cheyenne has probably annexed maybe 100 times, probably, I would guess, annexations in that 20 years. And probably 90 of those annexations were folks who want to be part of the city. So they came to us, they wrote a petition, they said, look, we have this piece of property, it touches the city, and we would like to be part of the city. And so they came to us and asked to be part of the city. The city owns some property. Like right now, in the last week or two, we have annexed maybe 4 or 5 pieces of property that are city-owned property. We bought land along the railroad tracks in Sun Valley, so we could do a greenway that would go from like College Drive all the way to the new East Park or the Kiwanis Park. And so we've annexed some city-owned property. And then I think in those 20 years, there might have been maybe 1 or 2 opportunities where the city's actually initiated an annexation. So the majority of the annexations that we have done, I would say at least 90% of those have been folks who've come to us and said, we want to be part of your city, we need your water, we need your sewer, we want to have those kinds of amenities. And so we've done those annexations. And so when you say the city's annexing, I guess technically that's true, because the only people that can do that is the city doing an annexation ordinance. But it's not us that have asked them to annex, it's them who've come to us and asked to be annexed. And so I hear a lot about property rights. These folks have come to us and asking to be part of the city, and we acknowledge that. And so the way it works is they bring an annexation petition to us, and we have to certify that all the folks in that area, their name is on that petition, and they want to be part of the city. So we get a letter that says, hey, I want to be part of the city. So we look at that annexation petition, we check all those names, make sure, yep, they're in there, those signatures match. And if it is, then we have to go through what's state law is 15-1-402, and we have to find statutorily that this works. Does it touch the city? Is it illogical and feasible? Can we provide the services? And if the answer is yes, the state law says we shall, by ordinance, annex that property. It doesn't say we may annex it, we shall annex that property. And so, yes, the city's annexing it, but it's only at the request of the folks who own those pieces of property. And so, if that helps you, sir, we're not actively going out looking to annex properties, with one exception right now, and that is there's 65 pieces of property that are 100% surrounded by the city, inside the city limits. And I'll give you an example is Wells Fargo on Pershing Boulevard. It's a little stamp of county land, completely surrounded by the city. We are annexing all of those 65 pockets right now. The city council a year ago made that a priority to bring all those 65 properties into the city limits because of some jurisdictional problems that we've had recently. Who gets called, how long does it take to get there? So we've made that decision, and the first 5 of those annexations have started. So the supply sergeant, the bread store, Wells Fargo, those annexations are in process right now, and so we're working through getting those annexes. So to answer your question, our future is those 65 pockets. We are going to annex all 65 of those pockets over the next year. But other than that, the annexations that are coming to us are initiated by someone else. And I'll give you the example of the High Plains the High Plains Business Park that is south of College Drive and west of Highway 85. It was 1,280 acres. That was Mr. Samuelson, Mr.
Yeah, Gary. Please speak up.
I'm talking as loud as I can, sir. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll step down a little closer. How's that?
We're old.
We're old. I'm resembling that. So the High Plains annexation that we just did, the business park that's south of College Drive and west of Highway 85. So that annexation happened here. We just passed that one in the last month. That was an annexation of the owners of that property. Mr. Sarah, Mr. Samuelson, and starts with an S. I apologize, I can't remember his name. They came to us and said, we want to build a business park, and we want to put a data center there. And in order to be able to do that, we need water and sewer. So we want to be part of the city. And so that's how that annexation happened. It wasn't the city annexing the property. It was the property owners asking to be part of the city, if that helps you. Did I answer your question,
Well,
sir?
sort of. Obviously, 90% you said was requested by the citizens. So this 10% that's sitting right here, I mean, what I've heard is people saying, well, we don't want them coming in taking a piece of our property or taking any of the rights from our property. So how do you answer that to these people that have that concern?
So what property are you talking about?
Well, my house.
Are you
my house, his house.
Are you in the county pocket?
I see. Did you bring any kind of a map that shows this?
So where do you live, sir?
We live out off of Reese Road and Beckel.
Reese Road and Beckel. That's east of town?
Yes.
Yeah, we have no. We have no plans coming your way that I'm aware of. And I think I'd be aware of all of those situations.
Well, you'll probably get tired of everybody going around here saying, here's my address.
Well, let's do it. I mean, I came today to answer all the questions.
Well, I
And
guess
so-
what I'm saying is, did you bring any kind of a map or anything that you can stick up there on an easel and say, this is what we're looking at, this is where we're coming? And if you don't fall in there, you got nothing to worry about, and if you do, talk to me.
So the only places I can tell you that we are actively annexing, where the city's actually annexing the property, is those 65 pockets inside the city limits that are 100% surrounded by the city. If you're one of those places, guys, honestly, we are going to annex those properties. We're working
So
on.
how do we know if we're in that pocket then?
Are you completely surrounded by the city?
How do you know that? Because we don't know what's been annexed or what hasn't been annexed.
Where do you live, ma'am?
Well, my mom, I know we're not, but my mom lives right over here on Allison Road.
Yeah,
B6 and Ellison Road.
you're not in the county pocket.
So is there a
It is a
list
county.
of those 65 pockets that you
Here.
have that you could show us?
Yep. I didn't bring anything large because I didn't know what you needed, but I do have a map of that. Which one is
If
it?
there's a link that we can send out to the group, please.
He has it, I gave it to him. Yep.
Okay. Good man.
The one with the 65 pockets. This one. This is it.
Because they're in Pennsylvania, they don't have
There it is. Yep. How we can show that.
We want to do this, I can set this computer up over here, and you guys can come up and look at it if you've got questions. And then I'll get this to Jody here, and she'll get it put out.
Thank you.
So this, we can just pass this around if you guys want.
And by all means, pass that around.
Yeah, this is a map that shows all 65 pockets that the city currently is starting the process. We've only started 5 of them so far. And those are the ones that are on Ridge Road and Pershing. And those people, we've already sat and met with them. So we actually sent them a letter, said, hey guys, we're gonna do this. Then we had a meeting with them, one-on-one, to tell them what's coming up. And now we're starting the formal presentation of that to
Now,
happen.
these pieces that are sitting there that are completely surrounded by the city, that didn't get annexed with the rest of it, that I'm kind of curious as to how something like that happens, and it's been sitting there for how long, not annexed, and all of a sudden you want to annex it, so how come that is?
Are there private citizens in that area?
There's 65 pockets, 139 separate owners of those properties. Some of them have homes on them, many of them are businesses. Yes, ma'am. So they're individually owned.
Annex somebody's private property.
Yes, ma'am.
And so why
Yep.
now?
I'll give you a perfect example, or 2 reasons that happened. And we had a couple of robberies at Wells Fargo, and we couldn't respond. We had to wait for the sheriff's department to come. They came very quickly, but we also had a fire at the supply sergeant. The street in front of the supply sergeant is a city street. Our police officers were there guiding traffic. You were, I think, our chief at that time. We're guiding traffic, and we're waiting for a county fire truck to come. We had a fire station less than a minute away, but we had to wait for a county fire truck inside the city limits. If you saw what happened in Broomfield, Colorado, when the wind blows and we have these fires, all of a sudden you have, 100 homes.
Okay.
Talk about Wyoming.
Is there a law that says you can't respond to that fire department?
We have to be asked.
No, but is there a law that says you can't?
No, they have
Why do they have
MOUs that
to wait?
every zone.
Also, real quick,
can
from what I understand, in
You asked me why we're doing this. That was the impetus for the city council. They made it a goal to bring these properties in because of these jurisdictional problems. How did this happen? And I'll explain. So when we do annexations, they're normally based on folks coming and saying, we want to be part of the city. So what your neighbor wants to be part of the city, you don't, and the city slowly grows around you. And that's how this happens. And I'm sorry?
those are businesses you're discussing. Wells Fargo and Supply Sergeant are businesses. Wells Fargo can hire their own security. They can do what they want. Supply Sergeant is a business.
And-
It's on my understanding in the statute, I may be wrong, what I understand, whenever it says shall, it's may. It doesn't mean must. Now, perhaps the guy
That is
there
correct.
can
Is that
clarify.
You want to pass those maps around?
Yeah.
So those will show you, and we'll just.
Is that right, Clarence?
That's my understanding. And shall is in.
Shall does not give you an option. The legislature, if you look at Supreme Court decisions, the legislature says that you have to take what the word means. Shall does not give us an option. May, if they would have put may in there, that would have given us an option.
Let's let Sheriff Kozak talk about the agreements between the county,
And the city.
Sheriff's Department, city, police department, and then we can let you discuss that one, the fire issue.
Yeah, thank you. So, Brian Kozak, we do have a memo of understanding between the Sheriff's Office and the Cheyenne Police Department, which the Sheriff has given full peace officer authority to the police officers to respond within the county pockets. And, yeah, so we do. So they have full authority. So basically the way that we operate is whoever is closest to an emergency goes. And then once we get there, we sort out jurisdiction, and then we'll have the appropriate agency respond after that to figure out who's going to take the report, who's going to do the investigation. But if it's an emergency, you know, rest assured, someone's going to go. Cheyenne Police Department, Sheriff's Office, most likely both of us are going to be going.
You have that agreement.
So we have had the agreement in place. Well, when I was police chief, we got that in place. I think it was 2015 is when it went into effect, which included the county pockets, and then the geographical area around the city of about a quarter of a mile. And what I just submitted to the police chief just this week was to allow full authority to the police officers in all unincorporated areas of the county, because I believe that we should be working as a team no matter where you're at. So both the chief and I agreed, and we're moving forward on that agreement.
Okay, so what Mayor Collins said about it took too long for the police to respond, that's a whole lot, that's BS.
Yes.
It's not yes.
Right, because if we had
That in
that
place.
agreement in place, there should have been no question
It-
about the
Chip, when
closest
did
fire
that robbery
department
happen? Do you
in there.
remember?
Yep. Closest
I don't-
fire department should have been there.
Yeah, I don't remember when the robbery occurred, but you're right, it should not occur. If it occurs, it should not happen, because if there's an emergency in place, we work well together, the police department and the sheriff's office, and so rest assured we're going. And there's many times too where the police department is tied up and busy on calls, and we jump in and help, and vice versa too. Sometimes we're busy in the sheriff's office, and we're asked the police department to go take some calls in the county for us as well. So there is that teamwork going on, but the MOU just assures that the police officers have authority to do what they need to in the county. Now the MOU does require that they notify us of the actions that they're doing in the county.
So on
thanks.
this instance about the fire and the robbery, how come it wasn't dealt with?
Yeah, BS, yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't answer that.
You
Yeah.
said you guys had to wait.
Hold on a second.
I don't know specifically on that one. I don't know.
We don't know the specifics of exactly how that happened. Let's let the chief of middle staff discuss the fire agreements between the city and fire districts.
Can I ask a question related to what you were saying? Can you explain about, is it auto mutually, or do you have to request?
No, so the MOU, so under state law without a memo of understanding, in order for a police officer to respond to an incident outside of the city limits, it has to be hot pursuit, has to be, they have to be requested by the sheriff, or the police department has to ask on the radio and notify the sheriff. So those three situations. The memo of understanding that we have in place allows the officer to just take action. And then once the scene is stabilized, to then let the sheriff know what is going on. So it allows the officer to just do what needs to be done. Okay?
I think those examples that the mayor, Mr. Mayor, that you just provided are not grounds for all of the annexations. Those two examples you keep reiterating over the last 6 months, that those are the only two major reasons for the annexations. You know, that fire and now a supposed robbery, the robbery, if that's what happened, there had to have been MOUs, whether they were in place in 15 or prior. Almost every law enforcement, first responders, even way above, up to federals, they all have memorandums of understanding throughout. And that has been known as long as I've even been retired law enforcement. So I understand those, but I think those just two examples that you keep throwing out to the public are just very poor examples as to why these annexations have to be passed.
No, you guys,
And as far as
you guys have.
everybody petitioning for these annexations to be passed, that's fine. But that is not and should not be your status quo for annexing all of these pockets and or additional lands. If these three landowners for the big major one being out there if they were given the information that they want a business center out there, nobody else was notified before you guys took action. And because it's way out there, that fire over here should not give you good grounds to say, let's just go ahead and annex this without even letting the people who border these lands, not even a letter. That is why this legislation is so important to be passed, so we all will be notified.
So
let's
talk about that, because that's not true, okay? So,
Then let's hear the truth.
okay.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about it. The first thing is 151401 defines a landowner, okay? And it says a landowner is a person who owns property inside the area being annexed, okay? So, we have to notify them by certified mail that the annexation is coming. They asked us to be annexed. We have to write them back a letter certified that says, okay, we're going to do the annexation. You've met all the criteria, we're going to do the annexation. Okay, so that's their area inside the annexation. However, we sent that letter for the High Plains annexation on September 8th. On September 13th, to 90 people within 300 feet of the area being annexed, we sent this letter.
Oh, sir.
Yeah, we're within that. We never received it. We're right on the border.
7 houses right along there, never received it.
What's your name?
Absolutely.
Richards.
I appreciate you, sir.
That statute you cited?
Yeah, that's it.
It's 151401, sir, and it is A2 defines a landowner.
Now, according to Black's Law Dictionary, anyone who is an owner has authority over their property.
So let me read the definition to you. Landowner means an owner of real property in the area, the territory proposed to be annexed, who in the last calendar year was liable for property taxes thereon. So the state law defines for them what the definition of a landowner is.
And anyone who has ownership over anything has authority over that, according to law, not someone else. If you don't have authority over whatever you own, you don't own it.
Okay.
That's the law.
But one thing that's been added to this bill, put that in there. Because right now in statutes, it's just the area around, the area they are annexing. We've moved that out with this bill to 550 feet, that you will be notified by first-class mail. If it's an annexation, it has to be registered mail, and then you'll have to, agree to disagree, but we took it out of Mason's, is once you get that notification, you have to respond. If you don't respond, it'll be an aye vote. So you're gonna have to respond.
It shouldn't be that.
But that's the way that the
It should be
bill's,
negative, not for the positive.
and I agree with that, but my colleagues on the House floor disagreed with that.
Other stakeholders?
The legislature, because the bill was written that, it'd be a no vote if you didn't respond. And the body on the House side said, no, they need to respond, or it'll be a yes. Because under Mason's legislative procedure manual, if you don't vote in a committee meeting, it's an automatic yes. So that's where they took that from.
So the letter that we sent, the letter we sent on.
I agree, but
The letter we sent September 13th says, "To whom it may concern, an annexation zone change and a future land use amendment has been filed with the City of Cheyenne Development Office for this development." And it goes through the details of it.
So who has the quality control over what list of that letter being sent to who, what residents and what businesses? Where is that kept?
As-
I would like to see the list.
As I understand it, they take they go 300 feet from the property border, and they go all the way.
Yeah, who's they?
Yeah, who is they?
In this case, it was AVI. They're the people who are doing the zone change for the owner of the property. See, we don't have to do this notification. We do that notification into 300 feet. But what I learned is not every city does it this way. Like Sheridan, they do an annexation, and then after the annexation is complete, they do a zone change. And so they don't do any sort of notification within 300 feet until afterwards. So there's a House Bill number 142 that I went and testified in favor of here in the last couple of weeks. And basically what that law says is that in addition to the certified mails, we also have to send via first class mail everyone within 300 feet a notice that an annexation is happening. Because I do agree that there should be transparency about what we do, and we should tell people what we're doing. And so I supported that. I went and testified to the House that said, I think our annexation laws are good laws, but I think one glaring weakness is we don't do enough notification. And I asked them to support that, and we passed it unanimously out of the Corporations Committee. It passed through the House. It's going to the Senate here hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and I personally will be there to support it when it comes before the Senate to try to get that into law.
So I guess what happened with your High Plains Road deal was nobody on Red Hawk, which borders Sarah's property, was notified. Those are all homes, including the Richards here in front of you. So it sounds like the third party who did this just omitted the private residence holders along that property line, and they never got notified. And yet the city had no obligation to verify that everybody was notified.
Well, the city's not required to do this notification.
Correct.
It's a courtesy notification.
Correct, but the
But
bill-
it should be accurate.
Right, now the bill that Clarence has got on the floor and we're trying to push through, that should force somebody to make sure everything's notified, correct?
yeah, there's two separate bills. I took the bill he brought up, and I actually amended that portion into my bill before his bill went to corporations. Mine was the first one through, and it was already amended in my bill. So either way,
So we sent a notice to James Cowsey at 1620 or 1260 Red Hawk Road. We sent one to William Johnson at 1384. We sent one to Bonnie Martins at 1198. We sent one to Gene Weiss
Yeah.
at 1012. We sent 90 notices out, 88 of them were delivered.
I think it was junk mail because it didn't have any looking official on it, because it just probably said something like ABI. Because everybody along that street I talked to says, no, they didn't have any idea that was happening until after it happened. I was like, really? So that's where I decided I need to get involved and find out what's going on.
Sure, I understand that. So at our last meeting, we're working on an annexation of a county pocket that the owner of that county pocket is voluntarily coming into the city. And the lady said she didn't get annexed. And I said, well, ma'am, you're not in the area being annexed. She goes, well, I didn't get a certified mail. I said, yes, ma'am, you're right. You're not in the area being annexed, but you got another letter that says it's happening. She goes, no, I didn't. All I got was this. And she held up the letter that I just referenced. She was holding it in her hand saying, I didn't get noticed. She did get the letter, sir. And I truly believe that most people, there may be one or two exceptions, but on Red Hawk Road, at least 5 or 6 people on Red Hawk Road got, and maybe the other ones aren't. I can't answer your question, but those folks did get notice, sir.
Along with that development, you brought a city water line through county property all the way around the county service on the east side of the Greeley Highway. Now, what allowed that to happen?
Okay? I think I understand what you're asking. There's a new business park down south called Bison Business Park. That's where the new Microsoft is getting built. And so the water and sewer line needs to go through there.
Why? There's already water sewer right down Greeley Highway from South Cheyenne Water. Why did the city
can't
have
stop
to
it,
put
yeah.
that big expensive line through there?
Well, the city didn't put it through there, sir. The Microsoft did.
And why would they not go to South Cheyenne Water? Or did they? I don't know.
You know, I can't answer that question. They probably, I don't know if they have the capacity to do it, and they would have to have city council approval in order to expand their district, which we have done a couple of times. But
Wait a minute, the city council has authority over South Cheyenne Water?
it's our water.
Oh, of course,
Yeah.
you get paid well for it. Even more than what you charge the city for, so that's why I'm curious.
Actually, sir, we sell it to exactly the same price we sold to the city by contract. Yeah, we make zero. What I pay for water is the same charge we give to Southside Water. I think they have to mark it up a little bit in order to cover their costs, but we sell it to you for the same price that we sell it to our residents.
Okay.
And that was an agreement from 1970. And so the county has programs, so we have to go to the county engineers and the right-of-way people and get permission to do that. In a private property, we have to get an easement to go across and pay for that. And that's Microsoft that did that. They paid for that line. They paid for all the easements. They did all of that work. When it's done, they give it to the city. Now we're responsible to maintain it into the future. And that's
Are
how.
they gonna pay for safety lights out there? Because you cannot come out of day shift. Not in the morning on South Greeley Highway and coming off of Terry Ranch Road.
Yeah,
Now that
traffic's got
everybody's
more.
going in there, there's gonna be some deaths and somebody who will have to pay for that. Whoever is getting these approvals, that's when the BS will really hit the fans. Because it's gonna happen.
Y'all
But-
use the
That's,
roads.
it's not,
That's
if,
state
it's
highway,
when.
and that'll go through the highway department on that. And I happen to be on the transportation committee, so we need to talk.
But
after.
to answer your guys' questions, we noticed everybody inside the area being annexed. We noticed everybody within 300 feet of the area being annexed. We put signs all around there. You guys saw the signs that there's a change coming, and everybody showed up at our meetings. So I think the notification worked pretty well.
Except when the meetings are 2 or 3 in the afternoon and everybody's at work.
So in that annexation, we have 7 public meetings. 1, 2, 3, 4 of those are in the evening at 6 o'clock, and 2 of them are during the day at our committee meetings. And so of the 7 meetings, all but 2 of them are in evenings after 6 o'clock. And you're right, we do our committee meetings on the first and the third Mondays, and those are at noon, but we do all of our other governing body meetings at 6 o'clock at night. So that everybody can come. We used to do them during the day, but we thought that was unfair because people can't come. So we moved our council meetings to evenings 20-some years ago in order to make that more accessible. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm looking towards the future here because I know this is what's going to happen. I live in South Fork. I outright own my modular home, but I rent the land. When the corporation that owns South Fork and all the other trailer parks around the area, it's like, oh yeah, you want to be annexed. What kind of recourse do I have as a private citizen to say, hell no, I don't want this?
Ma'am, as I understand it, you have none because you're not a landowner. So you own your trailer, but you're leasing property. So as I understand it, you don't have any veto or any
And
right.
I understand there's something in the city of Cheyenne that if you have a modular home that you want to move, you can't do that unless you buy a piece of land that already has something on it.
I don't know the answer to that, ma'am. I wish my planning director's
So in
here.
other words, move out of Cheyenne.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. But you asked me a specific question. I believe if you don't own the land, you don't have a vote in annexation. So just so you guys know, let's say the city decides we have the ability to annex anything we want that touches us, right? So let's just say we go crazy and we want to annex a mile out in a big square and bring it in. Okay, we can start that annexation. But if you look in state law, I believe you like to look at laws, I think it's 15-1406. There's a thing in there that says if the city does that 50% of the landowners in the area or landowners owning 50% of the land can veto that. And so there's a stop for the city. And the only exception to that is if it's 100% or 75% surrounded. If you're surrounded by the city, the legislature believed back when they wrote that law that those properties really are part of the city. They're already counted in our census. The county pockets are counted in our census. We already get the tax dollars for them. So we're not making any money by doing this. It's just bringing the borders in. But if the city were to do that, you guys have an ability to stop annexations if we do it. And then the law also says if we do that and you stop it, for 2 years we can't come back and talk to you about annexation again. So the law protects landowners against unwarranted annexations unless you're surrounded by the city.
Don't you guys go around and try to surround these different pockets? You reach out, tentacles, and try to reach them, so you
Yes,
how
you
you
do.
choose to do it.
So let's answer that directly, sir. I just got done saying just a little bit ago that 90-some% of our annexations are voluntary by the people who own those properties coming to us.
Most of those are businesses, and they should pay.
Actually, no, they're not. I tell you that most of them are raw land that are going to be developed into housing. So.
Businesses.
That's a business.
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. Yes, that would be correct. The land that's already developed, there's really not a lot of reason for them to want to be annexed unless they have an infrastructure problem. They need water or sewer, right? I mean, so that it's the raw ground that people want to bring in, because in the county right now, you can put one house of what, 5 acres? If you want to have more development than that, if you want to have more density, then you have to come in at an urban level, and in order to do that, you have to have a municipal water source. And the only municipal water source around here is city water, either through the Southside Water and Sewer District or through the city of Cheyenne.
Right.
And so we're not strategically trying to surround areas, because I can't convince you to annex unless you want it to be annexed. And those annexations come to us organically. They come to us because they want to be part of the city, not because I have the strategic plan in order to do this.
So